Chapter 6, Humiliation. When Tang Xiu arrived at the classroom, most of his classmates were engrossed in their studies as they plowed through pages after pages of past year's papers, while a handful of them were reciting out loud their textbooks. A tense atmosphere filled the entire classroom. As the final year examination was only 3 months away, their main class teacher and subject teachers emphasized on the importance of this examination time and again. With wave after wave of weekly and monthly tests given to the third-year students, this bunch of 17-year-old youths couldn't help but feel nervous. Seeing the eye-catching countdown number for the final year examination on the blackboard, and all his classmates studying intensely, Tang Xiu felt that he did not fit in with this world. Since I'm here just to fulfill my mother's wish and not here to really study, I need to not be too bothered about my surrounding. Tang Xiu quickly retracted his gaze as he walked to his desk. What Tang Xiu didn't expect was that just when he stepped into the classroom, all his classmates that were initially busy doing their revision stopped what they were doing and turned to look at Tang Xiu. Those looks were filled with despise, ridicule, disdain, and loathe, which Tang Xiu could not discern the reason for it. "Tang Xiu, we don't welcome you here, get out." Suddenly, a tall and skinny youth, with a face filled with despise, pointed his finger and ordered Tang Xiu, with a broken gong-like voice which resounded throughout the classroom. Feeling the strong hostility coming out from the tall and skinny body, Tang Xiu's gaze turned cold as killing intent was emitted from his body. The tall and skinny classmate was called Yang Jian, and he was a member of the class revision committee. He was always opposing Tang Xiu, because he resented Tang Xiu for scoring better than him during the entrance exam. When Tang Xiu's academic performance deteriorated, Yang Jian grabbed the chance to ridicule and suppressed him. "Tang Xiu, we don't welcome you here, get out." "Tang Xiu, we don't welcome you here, get out." "Tang Xiu, we don't welcome you here, get out." Before Tang Xiu had the chance to question Yang Jian, a clamor resounded throughout the classroom as wave after wave of perilous loud shouts caused Tang Xiu to freeze momentarily, while still at the entrance. Just when he wanted to clarify exactly what was going on, a loud clang sound echoed throughout the class. When Tang Xiu looked over, he saw that a fat guy at the last row had smashed his chair onto the table. The strength that the fatty had used was simply too great, causing the classroom to tremor slightly. After the loud smashing sound, the uproar abruptly stopped. The classroom became dead silent as the classmates who were actively bashing Tang Xiu seemed as if they were strangled by their necks. "It's just Tang Xiu's grade being a little bit poorer, and it's not his fault being like this. Is there a need to go against him? Tang Xiu is my tablemate, and I have seen him put in so much effort in the past year. I dare to say that Tang Xiu is the most diligent in his studies out of everyone here. If not for the car accident 1 year ago, all of you here would not even have the chance to be able to catch up to his silhouette. So what qualifications do you all have to reproach him? This matter aside, so what if Tang Xiu's grades are not good? It's not as if whatever you all say counts. He can come and go whenever he wants to, so it's none of your business." The fatty indignantly defended Tang Xiu after seeing that everyone was looking at him. The fatty was very plump and had a height of over 1.8 meters. His tummy was so round that it looked like a lady who was pregnant for 10 months, and his already small eyes were compressed by his fats on his face that made it look like a straight line, unable to see his eyeball. It may be that fatty's stature had given everybody a huge pressure, or that his murderous, fierce look was too intimidating, because the whole class was startled by him. "Yuan Chuling, what rights do you have to be so arrogant? The reason why our class average marks are the last in the cohort is all because of the two of you being such a disappointment. As the saying goes, a piece of rat feces spoils the whole pot of congee. Furthermore, our class has 2 rat feces, that's why it's hard to raise our average marks even if we want to." Yang Jian retorted back unconfidently after being silent for so long. "Yang Jian, who is the rat feces? I dare you to say it again." With a clang sound, Yuan Chuling kicked over the table and glared at Yang Jian with eyes that seemingly wanting to devour him as he yelled back. Yuan Chuling's action had frightened Yang Jian as he avoided making eye contact with him, his face became deathly pale. Yang Jian, it's not that I want to pick on you, but even if your grades are exceptionally good, a useless scoundrel like you would only be fated to work for others once you step into society, and you actually think that you are that great just because your grades are good. If I, your grandpa, wishes to deal with you, then it's just a lift of a finger to me. Seeing that Yang Jian had admitted defeat, Yuan Chuling did not bother with him anymore. He gave him a cold smirk before arranging back his chair and table and sitting down. Not sure if it was because of the wear and tear from the long years, or that Yuan Chuling's previous action being too violent, but the initially strong chair was actually damaged. So when Yuan Chuling sat on the chair, a akacha sound could be heard as he fell onto the floor with his hands and legs dancing wildly in the air, and a heart-tearing, lung-splitting shriek was produced. With Yuan Chuling making such a scene, the tense and silent atmosphere disappeared in an instant, and there was even someone who could not resist laughing out loud. Even Tang Xiu himself almost burst out laughing. But thinking back on how Yuan Chuling had stood out to speak up for him, he forced back his laughter and walked towards Yuan Chuling to pick him up from the floor. On the other hand, most of the people that were on Yang Jian's side did not dare to laugh, because they did not want to anger Yuan Chuling, who had an extremely intimidating temper. Are you all done? If you're done, then shut up. Just when everybody's attention was focused on Yuan Chuling, a cold voice resounded from the front of the classroom. Upon hearing the imposing voice, the classroom became dead silent in an instant, and even Yuan Chuling stopped screaming in pain. At this time, Tang Xiu had a face filled with shock when he saw that the chair on floor was perfectly undamaged, and that Yuan Chuling was even unharmed. As if seeing through what Tang Xiu was thinking about, Yuan Chuling gave Tang Xiu a few winks. If not for Tang Xiu's soul returning back, which improved his eyesight, the wink that Yuan Chuling gave from his seemingly straight-line eyes would have been a waste of effort. This fatty is actually a genius. Seeing the winking expression that Yuan Chuling gave, Tang Xiu immediately understood the reason why Yuan Chuling fell, and he couldn't help but praise his high EQ. Yuan Chuling only wanted to go against Yang Jian and not the whole class, but his actions previously were too arrogant, which may easily cause the rest to detest him. But after acting out his slapstick self-torture performance, the effect of Yuan Chuling's arrogance and despotic actions had clearly been dissolved, and the favorable impression that he brought to the rest of the class would also be fresh in their minds. The whole school could hear your argument. Even if you don't feel ashamed, I feel ashamed. Do all of you still have the image of a student? Seeing that he had successfully intimidated the 60 over students in his class, Hu Qiuxing's expression softened slightly. He took a look at everyone in the class, causing the students to panic as they all lowered their heads in guilt. Only Tang Xiu, Yuan Chuling and Yang Jian had their chest held up without being intimidated by Hu Qiuxing. Hu Qiuxing had a look of disgust as he cast his sight from Tang Xiu to Yuan Chuling. But when he laid his eyes on Yang Jian, a smile appeared. Yang Jian, what exactly happened just now? Why did the class made such a big ruckus? Teacher, Tang Xiu did not attend last night's self-study session and was even late for the morning self-study session as well, so I just told him off a bit. But after that, Yuan Chuling went to smash the chair and kicked the table, and even started criticizing us that no matter how good our grades are, we will only just be an employee working under someone. Furthermore, he still said that dealing with us would only be a lift of a finger to him. Yang Jian became very confident after having the main class teacher backing him up. Giving Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling a side glance, he started explaining the situation, adding oil to the fire as well. Hu Qiuxing did not like Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling in the first place, so when he had finished listening to what had happened, the expression on his face when he looked at Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling was filled with even more disgust. Tang Xiu, the results for last month's monthly test are out, and do you know how much you got? 37 marks. Hu Qiuxing's eyes locked onto Tang Xiu as he started reprimanding him. It's 37 marks. The total marks for the test is 750 marks, but you actually got 37 marks. You are the first in the cohort if we count the ranking backwards. Do you know how many people laughed at me because of this? If not for your mother kneeling down and begging me several times, do you really think that I would let you stay in this class? Hu Qiuxing scolded Tang Xiu loudly. Every time you assure me that you will work hard and score better on the next test, but every time when the result comes out you are always the lowest in the cohort, and your results are getting worse and worse each time. Tang Xiu, I have already sent in a request to the principal to have you expelled or at least have you switched to another class. Our class is never going to continue having you here, or else I will quit my post as the main teacher of this class. Hu Qiuxing was roaring when he said those words, his facial muscles were warped up, and his eyes turned blood red as if Tang Xiu did an unpardonable crime. Facing Hu Qiuxing's scolding, Tang Xiu's lips trembled for a brief moment. He wanted to explain himself, but gave up on that thought after he observed Hu Qiuxing for a while. He stood on the spot quietly, letting Hu Qiuxing reprimand him. However, Yuan Chuling, who was standing beside Tang Xiu, had his face totally red, as if he had suffered a huge humiliation. His body kept on fidgeting while his mouth opened up a few times, wanting to defend Tang Xiu. But he was suppressed back by Hu Qiuxing's imposing manner and was not able to speak up. After scolding Tang Xiu non-stop for about 10 minutes, Hu Qiuxing's pent-up anger had almost subsided, and following that, he cast his eyes onto Yuan Chuling. When he saw the indistinct mocking smile on the corner of Yuan Chuling's mouth, Hu Qiuxing chose to ignore his existence before criticizing the other students that were not performing well. Only when the bell for the end of morning self-study session rang did Hu Qiuxing stop his scolding and left hastily. Although Hu Qiuxing had left, the classroom still had an intangible heavy atmosphere. Other than a few students who needed to go to the toilet, the majority of them were busy revising. Chapter 7, Kicked Out of Class. Tang Xiu laid his eyes on his study table. Just the test papers alone were stacked 2 feet high, and the amount of reference books was even more. It was not only Tang Xiu's table that was like that. At a glance, all the tables in the class were like that. If there was really a need to point out one difference, then it would be that all the books and test papers that were on Tang Xiu's table looked brand new and neatly arranged, while the rest of his classmates' table had their books and test papers piled up in a mess, looking like a disaster. Tang Xiu randomly pulled out a few test papers to take a look and found out that he could not understand most of the questions. The numerous fresh red zeros on his test paper even made his face turn red. It seems that I must resolve the issue with my studies first before resolving the issue with my cultivation technique. Or else, I would really be expelled from school due to my grades, and Mum would definitely be sad. Tang Xiu whispered to himself softly before taking out a book from his table and seriously skimming through it. After having his soul damaged, although Tang Xiu's intellect on earth was damaged, but his attitude towards his studies was very proper. All his study materials from year 1 to year 3 were neatly arranged underneath his table, and Tang Xiu therefore would not need to waste his time and effort gathering studying materials. As he was from a single-parent family, Tang Xiu was extremely obedient and very diligent in his studies. Since primary school to high school, Tang Xiu had always been the dictator in academic results. He was ranked first in the entire cohort for his entrance exam into Star City First High School. And subsequently in year 1, Tang Xiu had also dominated the entire cohort by ranking first in his final year's examination. However, due to a car accident in the first half of the school term in year 2, Tang Xiu's soul was damaged, and this caused his memory and comprehension skills to fall drastically. He would always lose focus randomly from time to time. No matter how hard he tried, he was not able to catch up with the pace in class, thus his results kept on falling until he became the last in his cohort. If Tang Xiu wanted to improve his results, he would not only have to self-learn the content from year 2 and year 3, but also relearn all the content before year 2. If it was the previous Tang Xiu, it would be impossible to take back all the glory that should have belonged to him using just 3 months. But this wouldn't be of any issue to the current Tang Xiu. Eldest brother, don't bother wasting your effort, us brothers are just not fit to study. It wouldn't be of any use no matter how hard we try. Tang Xiu had only flipped a few pages of his book before he felt a hand over his shoulder, and a low voice resounded beside his ear. The one who was speaking was naturally his tablemate Yuan Chuling. He was thinking that Tang Xiu was affected by Hu Qiuxing's words and couldn't help himself from looking through his study materials, so he wanted to console him. Yuan Chuling was one of Tang Xiu's good friends that was hard to come by, and was considered his brother in arms. Yuan Chuling's result was also extremely outstanding when he first entered school. However, during the second half of the term in year 1, his parents got divorced, and after that, Yuan Chuling began to frantically skip classes, getting into fights, getting into relationships, and even skipped examinations. From an exquisite model student, he became a bad student that teachers hated in a short period of time. 2 years had passed, and although Yuan Chuling had calmly accepted the fact that his parents had divorced, but the harm inflicted onto him by his parents was unable to be salvaged. His enthusiasm towards his studies was also unrecoverable. Fatty, let's just study properly, or else. Tang Xiu stopped his sentence halfway and was not able to continue. The reason why he was willing to go back to school to study was to fulfill his mother's wish, but Yuan Chuling hated his parents and so would do anything that would make his parents feel miserable. Forget it, our situations are different. You better study hard and not let down your mom's expectation. For me, it will always be like this for the rest of my life. Seeing that Tang Xiu had stopped speaking further, the smile on Yuan Chuling's face gradually disappeared as he became downcast. Fatty, since you still persist to come to school for lessons on time every day, then this says that deep down you still have the passion for learning. You are only doing this because you want your mom and dad to feel miserable and regret. That's why you are giving up on yourself. Am I right? Tang Xiu stared at Yuan Chuling as he asked. After hearing Tang Xiu's words, Yuan Chuling's expression changed, and he avoided Tang Xiu's gaze with guilt. Fatty, even though I don't know why your parents decided to file for divorce, but during this 2 years, I have seen how much they care for you. They didn't divorce because they don't love you anymore, but because they felt that they were not suited to be together. If you still continue giving up on yourself, you will suffer, and your parents will be in pain as well. So why the need to be like this? Seeing that Yuan Chuling was properly listening to him, Tang Xiu took the opportunity to advise him. If the bunch of experts from the immortal world saw how earnest Tang Xiu was giving advice to a mortal aunt to reflect, then their jaws would definitely have dropped to the floor. This was because the Tang Xiu in the immortal world was simply too arrogant. Even to his lover and good friends, he did not bother talking to them much, and he was even colder towards strangers. It was only because Yuan Chuling had stepped forward to speak up for him in the most critical moment that made Tang Xiu felt touched, causing Tang Xiu to acknowledge and accept this friend of his. Tang Xiu simply had nothing on his side. His family was so poor that he had trouble with his family expenses. He even had trouble gathering enough money for his school fees, his results were atrocious, and he was even suspected to be mentally handicapped. Even under all these circumstances, Yuan Chuling was still willing to help and protect him, so this only proved that Yuan Chuling really treated Tang Xiu as a friend. I'm also aware that my parents have their predicament on why they divorced, but I'm still not able to get over it. Yuan Chuling had an agonized expression on his face. Let's not talk about my issues. Previously, Tiger Hu had said that he wants to kick you out of this class or expel you from the school, but why do I feel that you are not worried about this at all? Yuan Chuling did not want to continue talking about the issue regarding his parents' divorce, so he simply changed the topic. My results are simply too atrocious, so it was normal for Tiger Hu to be this agitated. Furthermore, don't you think that this class totally lacks sympathy for others? Maybe a change of environment would be good. Tang Xiu smiled as if nothing had happened, as he did not put this matter to heart. Why do I feel that you became another person today? Listening to Tang Xiu's reply, Yuan Chuling almost thought that his hearing had problems. Following that, he couldn't help but size Tang Xiu up from head to toe. Gradually, Yuan Chuling's eyes started getting brighter as his face revealed an excited expression. He asked nervously, Your mind has become brighter. That's right, my mind has recovered back to normal, thank you for always taking care of me this past 2 years. As a way to express my gratitude, I have decided to let you seat on the throne for last in the class. Seeing the sincere smile of joy on Yuan Chuling's face, Tang Xiu felt very warm deep in his heart as he punched his fist onto Yuan Chuling's chest with a light smile. Damn. I'm just simply too happy now. Let's go, I'll treat you to some beer, we need to celebrate. After he got a confirmation for his suspicion, Yuan Chuling was overjoyed. He grabbed onto Tang Xiu's arm as he pulled him to the exit of the classroom, ignoring the ridicule behind Tang Xiu's back, and also the clear lesson bell that was ringing. Tang Xiu had the intention to resist, but couldn't do anything as Yuan Chuling's stature was 3 times as big as his. Yuan Chuling's strength was not something that the current Tang Xiu could contend against. The two of you, stop where you're going. It's time for the lesson, so go back to your seats. Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling were stopped by Hu Qiuxing just as they reached the exit. Yuan Chuling clearly didn't expect that Hu Qiuxing would return after going away. He couldn't help but freeze momentarily as he let go of Tang Xiu's arm hastily and looked at Tang Xiu with an apologetic expression. One must know that even though Tang Xiu's results were not satisfactory in the past 1 year, but his discipline in school was well known to be good. He was never absent from any class or played truant, and there was never even an incident of him being late for class before. But right now, he was being dragged by Yuan Chuling to skip class, so Yuan Chuling would naturally feel bad about it. Teacher, Tang Xiu isn't feeling very well, so I want to accompany him to the sick bay. Can I take half an hour leave from you? Yuan Chuling immediately sprouted out some nonsense as an excuse. Hearing that excuse, Hu Qiuxing swept his sharp gaze on Tang Xiu from head to toe and asked in a mocking tone, Yuan Chuling, do you need me to accompany you to send Tang Xiu to the sick bay together? It's all right, teacher, we will persevere for a while and head to the sick bay during the break. Hearing Hu Qiuxing's bone-piercing cold tone, Yuan Chuling shook his head in a flurry and pulled Tang Xiu back to their seats. Seeing that Yuan Chuling and Tang Xiu had returned back to their seats, Hu Qiuxing made his way slowly to the teacher's desk. Following Hu Qiuxing's light cough, the whole class turned silent in an instant. After discussing with the teacher in charge of Year 3 in the principal's office, Tang Xiu will no longer be a student of Class 5. In the next 3 months, Tang Xiu will go to Class 10 to continue his studies. Hu Qiuxing took a glance towards Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling's direction before reading aloud the file in his hands. Upon hearing Hu Qiuxing's words, Tang Xiu's heart contracted as his face turned deathly white. Although he said that he didn't mind, but being kicked out of class and leaving the class on his own accord were 2 different matters. Furthermore, Hu Qiuxing had read out the notice in front of all his classmates, not sparing any consideration for his dignity and feelings. This was like giving Tang Xiu a tight slap on his face, causing Tang Xiu to have an indescribable rage and despair. Yuan Chuling also didn't expect that Hu Qiuxing would stop them from going out just to announce Tang Xiu's dismissal from the class. This made Yuan Chuling pant in anger as his face flushed red. But taking a glance at Tang Xiu's deathly white face, he resisted the urge to retort back. This is simply too good. With Tang Xiu leaving, our class average marks would definitely go up. I have calculated it seriously before. If Tang Xiu were to be absent from the exams, then our Class 5's average marks would be the highest among the rest of the class. It was because of Tang Xiu's existence that caused our average marks to fall by such a large gap. After Hu Qiuxing finished reading the announcement, The class was silent for a brief moment before a thunderous applause burst out with some of the students cheering loudly. Hearing the heated discussion in the class, Yuan Chuling clenched his fists tightly. However, Tang Xiu's expression was very calm and did not change at all, as if nothing had happened. Teacher, Tang Xiu have already recovered completely from his repercussions from the car accident, so his results would improve soon. I plead you to help say a few words in the principal's office to retract back the decision. After staying silent for a while, Yuan Chuling suddenly stood up and pleaded loudly. I have already listened to this kind of promise for many times now, so I will not trust any kind of promises from both you and Tang Xiu. Furthermore, the principal and the Year 3 teacher in charge's approved decision cannot be easily changed or retracted. Besides, I do not believe that Tang Xiu have the ability to pull up his grades in just 3 short months. Hu Qiuxing calmly replied as he glared at Yuan Chuling. Chapter 8, The Dumbest Decision. Hu Qiuxing's eyes were always on Tang Xiu when he was talking, the corner of his mouth slightly hooked up as he revealed a mocking smirk. Hu Qiuxing initially felt that it was a great pity when Tang Xiu's result fell. After all, Tang Xiu was ranked first in the entire cohort during the entrance exam, and Hu Qiuxing had also spent a great amount of effort to snatch Tang Xiu into his class. During Year 1, Tang Xiu had indeed brought honor to Hu Qiuxing by doing extremely well in any small and big exams or competitions. However, everything changed after the car accident in Year 2. Even though Tang Xiu was still as passionate to learn as before, but Tang Xiu always forgot the things that he learned previously after learning new things, causing his results to be worse and worse, paper after paper. Furthermore, as Tang Xiu's results deteriorated, incidents such as copying of homework, cheating in exams, and getting into fights were all happening to him one after another. Even when Hu Qiuxing didn't investigate on the truth with regards to those incidents, but seeing that there was really no hope in Tang Xiu's results, Hu Qiuxing had already taken Tang Xiu out of his eyes. Teacher, if you really insist on kicking Tang Xiu out of class, then I would want to apply to be changed to class 10 together with Tang Xiu. When Yuan Chuling noticed that Hu Qiuxing had already firmly decided on this matter and would not retract back the dismissal, he stubbornly glared at Hu Qiuxing as he said loudly. Hearing Yuan Chuling's words, Tang Xiu, who was silently packing his stuff, froze momentarily as he turned to look at Yuan Chuling, feeling astounded. Tang Xiu knew that Yuan Chuling's circumstances were completely different from him. Even if Yuan Chuling's results deteriorated, nobody could force Yuan Chuling to leave the class if he didn't want to, because his parents' influence in Star City was simply too great. That was why Hu Qiuxing didn't want to offend Yuan Chuling. Yuan Chuling, I will need to seek your parents' opinion with regards to you wanting to change class first. If your parents agree to it, then I won't stop you. Hu Qiuxing knitted his brows as he saw how Yuan Chuling kept on provoking him because of Tang Xiu, so he spoke in displeased tone. Please sit down now, we are starting class. Yuan Chuling froze momentarily as he did not expect Hu Qiuxing to straightforwardly agree to his request. Only when Tang Xiu gave him a tug did he gradually sat down. Using only a few minutes, Tang Xiu had already packed all his stuff from his table and stood up as head towards the direction of the exit. Eldest brother, where are you going? Yuan Chuling was still racking his brains on how to let Tang Xiu remain in class 1, but never would he have expected Tang Xiu to behave in such a manner, so he couldn't help but feeling startled. Going to where I should be going. Tang Xiu waved the bag on his hands as he gave a splendid smile towards Yuan Chuling. Yuan Chuling's startled sound had caught the attention of Hu Qiuxing, who was still writing on the blackboard. When he saw that Tang Xiu had already walked to the classroom's exit, he slammed his fist onto the teacher's desk with his face filled with rage. Tang Xiu, we are having lessons now. Who allowed you to walk around freely? Tiger Hu, I'm already not a student in this class anymore. Do you think you can still control me around? Tang Xiu glared at Hu Qiuxing coldly as he gave a subtle smile. During the self-study session in the morning, Tang Xiu did not utter a word when Hu Qiuxing was scolding him. Tang Xiu also did not utter a word when Hu Qiusheng announced Tang Xiu's dismissal in front of the whole class just now. But this did not mean that Tang Xiu had no temper, it was just that Tang Xiu did not want to be so calculative with Hu Qiusheng. If Hu Qiusheng had allowed Tang Xiu to walk out of class freely, then he wouldn't have bothered taking the initiative to provoke Hu Qiusheng. After all, Hu Qiusheng had also taught Tang Xiu for more than 2 years, and was also the main teacher in charge of his class. So Tang Xiu did not want to be seen as a person who do not respect his elders. Yet, Hu Qiusheng had chosen to impose his authority to berate Tang Xiu, and thinking back on all the humiliation that Hu Qiusheng had brought to him and his mother in the past 1 year, Tang Xiu naturally could not bear it anymore. After finishing his sentence, Tang Xiu had stepped out of the classroom without giving Hu Qiusheng the chance to speak. What Tang Xiu did not know was that when he said the words Tiger Hu, not only did he cause Hu Qiusheng to freeze on the spot, he had also caused the rest of the class to be left speechless. Even though all the students called Hu Qiusheng Tiger Hu behind his back, but nobody would dare to say this nickname out in public, or even more so in front of Hu Qiusheng, because they did not dare to face his fury. I'm going to deal with you, I'm so going to deal with you, I do not believe that I can't deal with you. Hu Qiusheng managed to regulate his breathing after a long while. By this time, Tang Xiu was nowhere to be seen, and Hu Qiusheng couldn't help but shiver in anger. Tiger Hu, I will take it that you have already agreed to let me switch over to class 10 to study.
Bye.
Oh, and before I leave, I would just like to say this to you. Letting Tang Xiu leave this class is the dumbest decision that you have ever made in your life, you will definitely regret it. Just when Hu Qiusheng wanted to walk out of the classroom to chase after Tang Xiu, another voice resounded in the classroom. When Hu Qiusheng looked over, he saw that Yuan Chuling was actually carrying his study table and chair, and heading out of class, and winking at him while he was at it. Yuan Chuling, you leave and never think of coming back. Thinking back on how Yuan Chuling's parents had kept an eye on him, Hu Qiusheng could not help but threaten Yuan Chuling. Tiger Hu, since I, your grandpa, have decided to leave, then I have never thought of coming back. Even if you begged, your grandpa would still not come back. Seeing that Hu Qiusheng was so angry that his soul seemed to be flying out, Yuan Chuling had an indescribable satisfaction as his steps became more joyful. Very soon, Yuan Chuling disappeared from Hu Qiusheng's line of sight. Hu Qiusheng did not attack with mean words when it came to Yuan Chuling because he was well aware of Yuan Chuling's circumstances. Any mean words would be useless against Yuan Chuling and may even backfire, getting himself humiliated. When both Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling left the class, Hu Qiusheng, who got heavily provoked by them, could also not continue on with explaining the answers to the questions in the practice paper. With his mind preoccupied, Hu Qiusheng mumbled to himself as he hastily left the class and headed to the principal's office. Principal Wei, I strongly request that we expel Tang Xiu. Not only is his studies poor, he also does not respect his elders, and even lead others astray. If we continue to tolerate him and let him stay in this school, then it would only tarnish our reputation. In the principal's office, Hu Qiusheng earnestly pleaded as he narrated and exaggerated the entire incident that happened in the classroom. Old Hu, I would also like to expel Tang Xiu, but you should also know that Teacher Han is always protecting Tang Xiu. He have even made a compromise to you by letting you dismiss Tang Xiu from your class. If you really want to make things difficult for Tang Xiu, and wants him to be expelled, then it's nearly impossible. Principal Wei slowly poured a glass of tea for Hu Qiusheng before smiling lightly and explaining to him. But, listening to Principal Wei, Hu Qiusheng felt suffocated and unbearable in his heart as he didn't know what to say. Hu Qiusheng could not understand why Han Qingwu, the teacher in charge of Class 10, would protect Tang Xiu. If not for Han Qingwu protecting Tang Xiu, Hu Qiusheng would have already kicked Tang Xiu out of his class 1 year ago when his results deteriorated. As for agreeing to the pleading of Tang Xiu's mom, Hu Qiusheng actually went along being acting as a benevolent person even though he could not really kick Tang Xiu out of his class. Principal Wei, Do you know the reason why Teacher Han is so protective of Tang Xiu? I have already investigated numerous times on Tang Xiu's personal information, family members, and also key social networks, but I could not find any connection between him and Teacher Han. Furthermore, I have never seen Teacher Han interacting with Tang Xiu in school before. Hu Qiuxing asked, feeling perplexed. Logically speaking, Hu Qiuxing was the teacher in charge of the gifted class, and was also an old teacher who had been teaching in Star City First High School for almost 20 years. Whereas Han Qinggu was just a teacher in charge of the normal class, and had just entered the school for only little more than a year, so Hu Qiuxing could have totally not put him in his eyes. However, the truth was that Hu Qiuxing had to be cautious when speaking in front of Han Qinggu, and also with a respectful attitude. This does not apply only to Hu Qiuxing, but every teacher in school, as they seemed to be treading on thin ice whenever they were in front of Han Qinggu, including Principal Wei Zhentai himself. The reason was actually very simple. Han Qingwu's father, Han Fu, was actually the chairman of the Ministry of Education in Star City. So if any teachers wanted to continue climbing up, or wished to continue their career in teaching, then they could not afford to offend Han Qingwu, and must even treat him well. Old Hu, is knowing the relationship between Tang Xiu and Teacher Han really that important? As long as Teacher Han wishes to protect Tang Xiu, then you can forget about kicking Tang Xiu out of school. Actually, it's not only you who wishes Tang Xiu to be expelled. I received a call this morning, and that person also wishes Tang Xiu to be expelled from the school, and I bet you would never be able to guess who that person is. Wei Zhentai gave a weird smile and looked at Hu Qiuxing as he said softly. Who? Wei Zhentai's words had successfully caught the attention of Hu Qiuxing as he asked involuntarily. The chairman of Shangwen Organization, Su Shangwen. Wei Zhentai lowered his voice as he replied. Su Shangwen. You mean the owner of the rapidly expanding organization who donated a large dormitory to the school just to let his son enter into Star City First High School? How did Tang Xiu manage to offend such a person? That's not right, him and Tang Xiu belong to two different worlds, unless it was because Tang Xiu and his son had some conflict with each other? Su Shangwen's past achievements began to surface in Hu Qiuxing's mind as he heard Su Shangwen's name. Old Hu, didn't you say that you have investigated numerous times on Tang Xiu's list of family members? Don't tell me you don't know the surname of Tang Xiu's mom? Wei Zhentai had a face filled with doubt after hearing Hu Qiuxing's words. Tang Xiu's mom? Hu Qiuxing did not understand why Wei Zhentai had asked him this question, but he still recalled the simple lady who kept on knelling down to him, and in the next moment, Hu Qiuxing's pupil shrank abruptly as he asked, Principal, you are not going to tell me that Su Lingyun and Su Shangwen are related, right? That's not right. If Su Lingyun and Su Shangwen are relatives, then why are both Tang Xiu and his mother so poor that they could not even afford to pay the school fees? As long as Su Shangwen is willing to slightly leak a bit of money from in between the gap of his fingernails to Su Lingyun and Tang Xiu, then this mother and son would not even need to worry about food and clothes. Hu Qiuxing was confused. This matter is already not within our scope of investigation. Wei Zhentai did not acknowledge or denied Hu Qiuxing's doubts, but only continued with what he wanted to say. Although Su Shangwen had contributed a lot to the school, but with Teacher Han backing Tang Xiu, I naturally could not fulfill his unreasonable demand. Even so, he should have been contented with me agreeing to switch Tang Xiu to Class 10. Listening to the principal's words, the corner of Hu Qiuxing's mouth twitched uncontrollably for a brief moment. Hu Qiuxing already had the intention to chase Tang Xiu out of his class since a long time ago, and had already mentioned it to the principal and the teacher in charge of Year 3 numerous times, but both of them have always been pushing this matter in circles. When the principal and the Year 3 teacher in charge had agreed to switch Tang Xiu out of his class, Hu Qiuxing had still thought that it was his persistence that won him this battle. But never would he have thought that Su Shangwen had played a critical role in this decision, and that he had taken all of Su Shangwen's glory. Thinking back on the mocking look and words from Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling before they left the class, Hu Qiuxing suddenly realized that although he had won, but he had also lost as well. Chapter 9, Fierce Beautiful Girl. Eldest brother, why are you standing outside the classroom and not going in? Yuan Chuling noticed that Tang Xiu was standing silently at the corridor and not going in when he carried his table and chair over to class 10, so he asked curiously. Based on Tiger Hu's character, he must have brought the folder containing my dismissal over to class 10 to read out when it was just released, so I'm guessing that class 10 still doesn't know that I will be coming over. That's why I'm waiting for Teacher Han to arrive before going in, or else I would only interrupt their studying if I entered rashly. Although Tang Xiu was stunned from the table and chair on Yuan Chuling's hand, but he still answered Yuan Chuling's question. Studying? Yuan Chuling took a peek through the window to see the movements in the class and laughed. Studying my ass. Class 10 is not like the gifted classes. Just look at them making a din, it's as if they can't wait for us to join them to play. Yuan Chuling wanted to push open the door after he finished talking. Fatty, I appreciate your kind intentions, but you should go back. Class 5 suits you more, it will only hold you up if you come over here. Tang Xiu put his hands on Yuan Chuling's shoulder as he said with a face filled with sincerity. No way, I heard that the people in class 10 are all lawless devils. I'm afraid that you would suffer, so I need to stay here to protect you. Yuan Chuling's eyes shone resolutely. I have never been afraid since young when it comes to fighting. I could still walk out alive even if I have to face the entire class. Tang Xiu laughed bitterly as he heard Yuan Chuling's words. Yuan Chuling's parents were successful businessmen with an asset of over 100 million. But because Yuan Chuling lived a simple life and was very low-profiled, it caused Tang Xiu to almost forget that Yuan Chuling had a status like that. Fatty, you can come over to class 10 to study, but you have to promise that you will concentrate on your studies for this last 3 months, and not give up on yourself like how you used to, or else you better go back to class 5 now. Tang Xiu said earnestly after staying silent for a brief moment. Yuan Chuling subconsciously wanted to shake his head to reject when he heard Tang Xiu asking him to study hard, but when he saw the serious look on Tang Xiu's face, he had to forcefully suppress his urge to shake his head. After a long internal struggle, Yuan Chuling raised his head. Eldest brother, you are right, it's not that I don't want to learn, but I'm giving up on myself purely because I want to take revenge on my parents. I also don't want to ruin the rest of my life just like that, and I'm not resigned to be a bad student. Since eldest brother wants to put in your best effort in this last few months, then I shall accompany you to put in my best effort together. Are you two the students of this class? Why are you two standing outside of the class and not going in? Just when Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling were busy talking with each other, a girl had ran to the entrance of the classroom door panting hard, and after giving Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling a curious glance, she called out to them. The girl had a short hair at the neck level. Her hairstyle was very neatly cut, and her low-tone coffee-colored hair made her overall hairstyle look in trend with a refreshing and energetic look, without losing the feel of a student. Yuan Chuling gave the girl a glance before his eyes became a straight line. Even Tang Xiu was captivated by the girl's exquisite complexion and her sunshine smile. The girls in class 5 either wear thick spectacles or tie their hair up into 2 ponytails, and have an atmosphere of heavy lethargy due to stress. They also do not take the initiative to call out to people, so don't even mention about dyeing their hair. Hi pretty lady, I'm Yuan Chuling, and this is my best friend Tang Xiu. We are previously from class 5, but from today onwards we are classmates. After losing focus for a brief moment, Yuan Chuling hastily stretched out his meaty hands to the short-hair girl. I was transferred to this school a month ago. I'm called Cheng Yannan, it's my pleasure to meet you too. Cheng Yannan gave a broad smile before reaching out her hand towards Yuan Chuling. You two must be waiting for the teacher, then I will head into the classroom first. Cheng Yannan waved her hand at Tang Xiu before stretching out her hand to push open the door. Seeing Cheng Yannan's action of pushing the door, Tang Xiu's heart was raised to his throat. With the return of his soul, Tang Xiu's senses and brain processing speed far exceeded normal people. Tang Xiu had clearly noticed that when he had arrived outside of Class 10, all the students in Class 10 had an excited expression when they looked at him as if he was their prey. This situation had caused him be more on guard. As he was standing outside the classroom, he could hear all the whispers happening inside the classroom with his superhuman hearing, and subsequently knew what was going on. It turned out that the students of Class 10 had set up a trap at the top of the entrance door using a broom and a dustpan. So when someone pushed open the door and enters, the broom and dustpan would smash onto them. Tang Xiu would naturally not walk right into the trap after finding out about the existence of it. So he simply stood outside of the classroom to wait for the teacher to come, and also to see how the students would clear up the mess when the teacher arrived. When Cheng Yannan came, Tang Xiu could hear the suppressed cheers coming from inside the classroom, and also saw that everyone revealed a look of excitement and anticipation. It was also at this moment that Tang Xiu understood that the trap was probably set up to deal with Cheng Yannan. Cheng Yannan, are you always late for class? Tang Xiu could not bear to see Cheng Yannan getting smashed by the broom and dustpan, so he purposely disrupted Cheng Yannan's action of pushing open the door. Why would you ask me this question? Cheng Yannan looked at Tang Xiu with a curious gaze as her hand's movement went sluggish. In the next moment, Cheng Yannan had a face of realization as she quickly took 2 steps back before raising her beautiful long slender legs, and giving the classroom door a kick. After that a peng sound could be heard, a kong-dang sound resounded incessantly as dust was flying all around. Yuan Chuling was left dumbstruck when he saw the broom and dustpan that was all over the floor. He sucked in a breath of cool air as he celebrated internally that he did not push open the classroom door just now. My God, this bunch of grandsons from Class 10 are really sinister to play such a big prank. After staring blankly for a long time, Yuan Chuling couldn't help mumbling to himself when he finally got a hold of what was going on. Tang Xiu had his gaze fixed on Cheng Yannan as her reaction was simply out of Tang Xiu's expectation. Furthermore, her last action of raising her leg and the kick's arc and strength gave Tang Xiu a breathtaking impression. Tang Xiu, Yuan Chuling, you guys don't have to be afraid, their trap was meant for me, so it's not related to you guys. Cheng Yannan smiled as she saw the dumbstruck look on Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling, and used a soft voice to comfort them. You two seem not bad, I will take care of 2 of you next time in class. After Cheng Yannan finished talking, she took big steps into the classroom. Tang Xiu could clearly hear that when Cheng Yannan successfully avoided the trap, the students in the classroom were heaving sighs in succession, and a few students who were sitting at the front hastily cleared up the broom and dustpan, making it seem as if nothing had ever happened. Just when all the students had gotten back to their seats, a rhythmic "ida-ida" sound echoed through the corridor. It was obvious that it was someone wearing high heels that was walking over. Looking at the direction of the footsteps, a woman wearing a typical female working attire was heading over towards the classroom of Class 10. She was wearing a black and white checkered short-sleeved shirt revealing her snow-white skin on her arms, a bright red skirt, and a bright silk stocking. This lady had a long and straight beautiful hair, which was elegantly captivating, a standard goose-egg-shaped pretty face, a bright and clean forehead, skin as white as snow, refined long eyebrows, a sharp nose, lips with an exceptionally gentle and beautiful curve that was so tender that makes people want to take a bite on it, and a sharp and smooth chin. In other words, it was a perfect and flawless face. If previously Cheng Yannan was as beautiful as a winter-sweet flower, who was graceful and proud, then the lady in front of their eyes was like a violet flower, simple, elegant and noble, breathtaking but not overwhelming. Tang Xiu, you're here early, I was still thinking of going over to Class 5 to fetch you over once this lesson ended. While Tang Xiu was staring at this lady blankly, her cherry lips opened and revealed a set of pure white teeth as she called out with a slight smile, her voice so soothing and pleasant to listen to. Hello, Teacher Han. Tang Xiu got back to his senses only when Han Qingwu called out to him, and replied to her with a face blushing red. The reason why Tang Xiu was staring at Han Qingwu blankly was not because of her captivating looks, but because Han Qingwu had a very similar look as his lover in the immortal world, which made him dumbfounded for a moment. If not for him checking that Han Qingwu did not possess even half a spiritual energy on her, Tang Xiu would have thought that his lover from the immortal world had followed him back to Earth. Tang Xiu, the principal and Year 3 teacher in charge, had already spoken to me with regards to your matter. If you don't mind being in class 10, then you will be with me for these last few months. Han Qingwu seemed to be satisfied with Tang Xiu's reaction as the smile on her face got even brighter. I will still need to ask teacher for your care and guidance. Tang Xiu adjusted his emotions as he silently observed Han Qingwu. Tang Xiu felt that Han Qingwu was being too overly enthusiastic with him, but he could not think of any instances where he had interactions with her. Furthermore, Han Qingwu looked really similar to his lover in the immortal world, which made Tang Xiu feel uncomfortable. But he could only choose to avoid it. Tang Xiu, you're being too polite. You are the one who got the first place during the entrance examination into Star City First High School, so I'm still pinning my hopes that you would give me a miracle during the final year examination. Han Qingwu didn't notice anything unusual on Tang Xiu as she continued to encourage him in a gentle voice. Tang Xiu went into contemplation as he touched his nose while listening. Teacher Han, I'm Tang Xiu's best friend in Class 5, and I would like to apply to join Class 10 to continue my studies, so I would like to ask Teacher Han to accept me in. Yuan Chuling noticed that Han Qingwu had her eyes focused on Tang Xiu the entire time and not once did she look at him, so he waited until Han Qingwu had finished up her conversation with Tang Xiu and hurriedly spoke up. Chapter 10, Insensitive. Han Qingwu only realized that Yuan Chuling was here when she heard his voice. Seeing that Yuan Chuling had actually brought his table and chair along, she let out a laugh with a mesmerizing smile on her face. Her round and ample chest was also moving up and down, causing Yuan Chuling's eyes to form a straight line. As long as teacher Hu permits, then I would naturally welcome you. After looking at Yuan Chuling for a brief moment, Han Qingwu turned to look at Tang Xiu at the side and nodded her head with a light smile. You and Tang Xiu go to the back of the classroom to sit down, I will introduce the two of you to everyone. Seeing that Han Qingwu was willing to accept him in, Yuan Chuling was unable to contain his joy as he quickly walked into the classroom. After Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling settled down at their seats, Han Qingwu began to introduce Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling to the class. When Han Qingwu was introducing Tang Xiu, a hissing sound could be heard in the classroom as everyone was whispering to one another in discussion. Clearly hearing the discussion happening around, Tang Xiu turned a deaf ear to it, but Yuan Chuling's face became green in anger. If not for Tang Xiu tugging at the corner of his shirt tightly, Yuan Chuling would have jumped in anger. Luckily, Han Qingwu was strong at handling situations. With a light cough, the classroom returned back to its former serenity. Han Qingwu gave an apologetic look towards Tang Xiu before asking the class to take out their monthly test paper and go through it. However, what made Tang Xiu astonished was that Han Qingwu was actually using English to conduct her class, without even using half a Chinese word, so much so that Tang Xiu did not understand a single word that Han Qingwu was saying even after a few minutes into the lesson. It was not that Tang Xiu's English was poor, or that his hearing had problems, but it was purely because he was not used to it, and that he did not expect any teacher to use English to conduct their class at the high school level. Yuan Chuling was also puzzled after hearing it. He wanted to cut off Han Qingwu's lesson for a while, or ask the student next to him on what was going on, but seeing that all the students were eagerly paying attention to the lesson, he could not help but force himself to pay more attention to the lesson. After 3 minutes, Tang Xiu had dejectedly given up on listening to the lesson and decided to take out his English dictionary to read. This was because, although Tang Xiu was able to clearly hear every word that Han Qingwu was saying, but he was unable to understand every word that Han Qingwu had said. So he realized that the amount of vocabulary that he knew of was very limited. Thus, he decided to learn more vocabulary first to fill up his vocabulary knowledge. When Yuan Chuling saw that Tang Xiu wasn't concentrating his attention on the lesson but reading the dictionary, he was delighted and immediately followed what Tang Xiu was doing by taking out a very thick Oxford dictionary and began putting on an act of reading it. Although Han Qinggu was explaining the solutions to the test paper, but her attention was always focused on Tang Xiu. When Han Qinggu realized that Tang Xiu could not even persist for more than 10 minutes and gave up on listening to the lesson, her face involuntarily revealed a dejected expression as her initial high spirits were dropped to the lowest point. Throughout the whole lesson until it ended, Han Qinggu had took a few glances at Tang Xiu, but Tang Xiu had buried his head in the dictionary the whole time and not once did he lift his head up, causing Han Qinggu to be thoroughly disappointed. When the bell for the end of class rang, Han Qinggu left the classroom hastily at almost the same time. Following Han Qinggu's departure, the previously quiet classroom became lively immediately. Listening to Teacher Han's lesson is both a pain and an enjoyment. Although we could not understand what she was explaining at all, but we have to act as if we understand so as to not disappoint Teacher Han. You're right, even if we can't understand anything that she had just said, but just listening to Teacher Han's voice is a kind of enjoyment. Furthermore, we still have the opportunity to see Teacher Han's wonderful figure. Why are these two bastards so insensitive by not paying attention when attending Teacher Han's lesson? The students of class 10 were still discussing the art of listening in class, when they unintentionally saw that both Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling were actually holding up their English dictionary to read, angering them as they indignantly surrounded Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling one by one. Yuan Chuling had wanted to join in on the conversation when he heard his classmates discussing the art of listening in class, but never would he have thought that the students of class 10 would suddenly pick on him and Tang Xiu, and felt that he got stabbed in the back even though he was lying down. Newcomer, we are talking about you, why are you acting deaf? Yuan Chuling opened his mouth and was about to acknowledge his mistake as he was in a new environment and did not want to stir any trouble, but before Yuan Chuling could utter a word, a peculiar voice resounded beside his ear as the English dictionary in his hand was slapped onto the floor. Yuan Chuling was already hot-tempered to begin with and could not stand this kind of attitude, making him spring up on his feet, breathing heavily. The student who provoked Yuan Chuling clearly did not expect that Yuan Chuling's temper would flare so easily, because when Yuan Chuling stood straight, his suppressive stature caused the student to stagger and step a few steps back. If not because of someone standing behind that student to prop him up, he would have already fallen sitting on the floor. Fatty, do not forget the things that you told me when you were at the corridor. Just when Yuan Chuling wanted to kill the chicken to warn the monkey by properly trashing that student, Tang Xiu's calm voice suddenly resounded beside his ear. Hey, coward, they are bullying you and you're still shirking back, go and fight back if you have the guts. Just when Yuan Chuling was prepared to cease his actions, a piercing voice resounded once again in the classroom. This caused Yuan Chuling, who had just cooled down, to fly into a rage once again. However, Yuan Chuling had a weird expression on his face when he stared at the person who shouted, and gave a puzzled look towards Tang Xiu. This was because the person who mocked and ridiculed Tang Xiu was not a stranger but his cousin Su Xiangfei. Yuan Chuling would have already slapped him if he was another person, but because the other party was Tang Xiu's cousin, Yuan Chuling naturally needed to seek Tang Xiu's opinion. Only when Tang Xiu saw Su Xiangfei did he remember that Su Xiangfei was studying in class 10. Seeing the rage on Su Xiangfei's face, Tang Xiu couldn't help but laugh. Su Xiangfei, are you sure you want to continue playing this game? If you think that it would be more interesting this way, then I don't mind continue playing this game with you. Listening to those words, Su Xiangfei's body quivered uncontrollably, as he subconsciously remembered the scene of him being brought to the police station in the afternoon yesterday. At that time, Tang Xiu seemed to have said the exact same words to him before the incident became uncontrollable, causing his whole family to be brought to the police station. Su Xiangfei wanted to retort back, but under Tang Xiu's sharp look, Su Xiangfei froze and did not dare to utter a word. The incident yesterday afternoon had left a deep traumatic experience on Su Xiangfei. Why are all of you still standing there? Are you asking for a beating? A clear and loud shout suddenly resounded behind Su Xiangfei as he was still hesitating whether to continue fighting back with Tang Xiu. Chang Yannan, I didn't provoke you this time, so don't meddle in other people's business. Su Xiangfei retorted back like a conditioned reflex as he heard the voice from his back. If you didn't provoke me, then what was the broom and dustpan doing lying on top of the classroom door just now? Don't think that I couldn't guess it was you. Chang Yannan swiftly grabbed onto Su Xiangfei's collar at the back as she gave a cold snort. Su Xiangfei didn't expect Chang Yannan to take action without saying more as his face turned white the instant his collar was grabbed, and said loudly, Chang Yannan, if you continue to touch me I will find people in the society to deal with. Before Su Xiangfei could complete his sentence, he heard a cold snort from Chang Yannan, and following next, his body was sent into the air as he flew backwards uncontrollably. After a few seconds, Su Xiangfei landed heavily on the floor with a loud thud with dust flying all around. Chang Yannan, you bitch, you threw me beside the rubbish bin again. Just when everyone was worried if Su Xiangfei was injured from the fall, two pooey pooey sounds could be heard from him as he started hurling abuses at her. If your mouth continues to spew out such degrading words then I don't mind throwing you into the bin next time again. Chang Yannan said harshly as she glared at Su Xiangfei coldly. Hearing Chang Yannan's words, Su Xiangfei seemed as if he was strangled by the neck with his face flushed red, not daring to utter a single word. With Su Xiangfei, their leader, being dealt with, the rest of the students were angered but did not dare to say anything. The looks in their eyes when staring at Chang Yannan were as if they spewing out fire. Chang Yannan seemed to be satisfied by the effects of her killing a chicken to warn the monkeys and swept her gaze through the rest of the students. As she said loudly, every single one of you here better remember this, Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling are my good friends. So if anyone dares to confront or tease them next time, I will definitely go for a good round of sparring with them. After she was done saying her piece, Chang Yannan casually slapped Tang Xiu's shoulder and said with a clear voice, as a guy, you must be more aggressive or else you can't survive in society. But don't worry, as long as there is me around, I would guarantee that no one in class would bully the two of you. If there is anyone that bullies or ridicule the two of you, just feel free to tell me and I will definitely help settle the score for you. Chang Yannan started talking by herself again even before waiting for Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling to reply. Chang Yannan's words were like a toothache for Su Xiangfei as he looked at Tang Xiu with eyes filled with jealousy. Su Xiangfei could not understand why there was always people helping Tang Xiu whenever Tang Xiu was in trouble. When there was no way out for Tang Xiu at his own house yesterday afternoon, the police came over to help him. When his father wanted to kick Tang Xiu out of school, Teacher Han was there to protect him. Even this time when Tang Xiu was transferred over to his own class today and he wanted to give Tang Xiu an unforgettable lesson, Chang Yannan actually stood out for him. The farce came and left like the wind. When the bell for the start of lesson rang, the students surrounding Tang Xiu and Yuan Chuling dispersed and returned back to their seats. At this moment, Yuan Chuling had still not reacted to what was going on. Eldest brother, did I become a little more handsome again? If not, why did Chang Yannan stood out to save us? After a good long while, Yuan Chuling started to tug on Tang Xiu's arm with a narcissistic expression. Just wait and go to the toilet when the lesson ends and you will know if you have gotten more handsome or not. Tang Xiu shot Yuan Chuling an eye as he replied with a disgusted tone. There was a smile on Yuan Chuling's face after hearing Tang Xiu's words, and just when he wanted to counterattack, he realized that Tang Xiu had once again brought his attention back to the English dictionary, so he could only give up on that thought.